Hi, I had an idea for this video a long time ago when I even first conceived of this channel, and I'm going to read 5 books here. I'm going to tell you more about my childhood reading once I go to the shop and get myself some Christmas lights. Be right back.
This is just a car outside my window. Frozen. Whoever's car this is, I'm sorry. I don't know if the camera is going to focus, but I just want you to see that every single little twig and berry and everything is encased in ice. Because it's been snowing for 3 days and then it started to rain in minus temperatures.
Hi. I had a sudden craving to put up Christmas lights in my room, and I literally ran to the shop with my dog and got them. So now I'm going to unpack them and tell you about what this video is about. So when I was a kid, I lived with my grandparents, and my grandparents are old school Soviet people. And I'm not exaggerating or anything. I'm from Ukraine, so my grandparents and my mom lived in the Soviet Union. A huge part of my education and my home upbringing was very Soviet, very old school Soviet. And my grandfather, he was a party member, so there was a certain mentality in the home, I suppose. But when I was a child and I lived with my grandparents, I didn't have access to the classical books, classical children's literature that I see a lot of people in the West talk about. And I didn't have an access to a library. I didn't have an access to a bookshop or anything like that. I only had my grandfather's library, which is vast. But my grandfather's library was, a lot of it was Russian literature. And of course it was Soviet literature from all over the Soviet Union. It was a lot of world literature as well, but only what was deemed worthy and translation worthy and appropriate for the people by the party, which was what all Soviet books were like. So when I was a child, I mostly just read Russian classics, and the children's books that I read were the Brothers Grimm and Hoffman and stuff like that. So I didn't read Matilda, I didn't read Roald Dahl, I didn't read Anne of Green Gables, none of that. I read a couple of children's classics when I was already an adult. I read A Little Princess a couple years ago and I loved it. And I just feel like I want to acquaint myself with the children's literature of the world that everybody knows except for me. And I want to read 5 books in this video. I have 4 of them here and 1 in the mail. And the reason why I decided to do this video right now is because I'm kind of in a bit of a reading slump, and I think I'm also might be suffering from COVID brain, because it's very hard for me to pay attention to anything. I cannot just hold a narrative and pay attention to anything, like books, video games, movies, anything. Everything just slips by me and I forget everything. I drop stuff all the time, so I'm just not having a good month mental health wise as well. So I decided that maybe this will help me somehow. What's wrong with the cover here? I don't know. I don't know. It was on sale. Maybe that's what. Okay, so book number 1. I'm going to read Heidi by, I don't even remember, Johanna Spyri. I don't know what this is about. I just know that this is about a little girl who I think, oh yes, Heidi goes to live with her grandfather somewhere in the mountains. And this is really interesting to me because I lived with my grandfather as well, who was a very big part and still is a very big part of my life. So, and Heidi, I haven't even heard of this up until I was an adult already, and I heard of this on YouTube. So yeah, I'm going to read Heidi. The next one is Watership Down by Richard Adams. I know that this book is probably going to destroy me. I am afraid to read this. I don't know why I think that this is going to make me feel good about life or take me out of a reading slump, because this is probably Watership Down, Felidae, and Plague Dogs are probably the 3 most depressing things in the world, and I decided to read one of them for a video that's supposed to make me feel good about life. But we'll see. Like, if it's too hard, I'm going to DNF it and put it aside for another time. The next one is Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. Barrie. I read this when I was like 14, and the only thing that I remember is that it made me very, very sad. But other than that, I don't remember anything about it. Nothing. Like, I know what it's about, like everybody else in the world. I've seen the Disney cartoon. I've seen like a live action adaptation when I was a child. But other than that, like, I couldn't tell you the plot. Like, I know that there's these kids that are in Neverland and like they don't age, and there's Wendy and she goes there, and then there's the pirate, but other, like, what exactly happens and the ending, no idea. So this. The next one I'm going to read, Matilda by Roald Dahl. This is, I think I'm most excited about this one. I don't know a lot about this as well. Like, this was not a children's classic where I'm from. Like, nobody talked about it, and I only started seeing it in bookshops when I was a full-grown adult. So I only know that this is about a girl, Matilda, who's very smart, and like she talks back to teachers and everybody thinks that she's annoying or something like that. And it's just about her life. And number 5, I have Anne of Green Gables in the mail, and it's going to be here in a couple of days. So I'm also going to read that. And I don't know anything about it as well, other than like it's a girl that gets adopted onto a farm that's called the Green Gables. And it's just about her life, and it says that she talks and talks and talks and talks, and that's what I do. So I'm hoping that these books are gonna return to me my will to live, and that these fairy lights are going to help as well. I'm going to put them up, make some coffee, start on some work, and then I'm going to start reading Matilda, because the other books I'm reading right now are making me feel dead inside. Alright, so here's a horrible shot of my bookshelves, but I just want to put the moment when I put them on camera. Let me get to the... Okay, let there be fairy light. Whoop, and they don't work. Oh, they do work. Excellent. Look at them shine. Hi, I'm reading Matilda. I'm on page 67, and there's a description of the headmistress of the school that Matilda goes to, Miss Trunchbull, and she's described as a gigantic holy terror, a fierce tyrannical monster who frightened the life out of the pupils and teachers alike. And then she's described as marching, not walking, and stuff like that. And then it says, "Thank goodness we don't meet many people like her in this world, although they do exist, and all of us are likely to come across at least one of them in a lifetime. If you ever do, you should behave as you would if you met an enraged rhinoceros out in the bush. Climb up the nearest tree and stay there until it has gone away." And yes, there are so many people in this world that I would like to hide up in a tree from. Hi, good morning. So today I finished Matilda. I read almost the entirety of it yesterday, and then I was so tired. And so today in the morning I finished the last like 20 pages, and it was lovely. It was great, and I'm not surprised that this was voted or called #1 children's book in the world. It was so good. So this is about Matilda, who is a brilliant child. She's a genius. But her family does not appreciate her talents. They don't care about her reading. They are very silly people, and they are mean to her. Can you stop that? Can you not take down my fairy lights, please? So she meets Miss Honey when she goes to school. Sorry for the vibration. I didn't turn it off, and somebody's sending me messages. She meets Miss Honey, a school teacher, who is incredibly kind to her and who helps her develop her talents. And then something very, very interesting and magical happens to Matilda. I don't want to spoil anything else. And it's just, like, if you haven't read it, and if you want to read it to your children, or your nieces and nephews, or whoever small you have in your life, or just for yourself, it was such a lovely story, and I would love to read it to kids. And it made me feel really good. I feel really... Matilda is like my little spiritual sister, I feel. Like, I felt a lot the way Matilda felt when I was a little girl. I'm not saying I'm a genius, not at all, but a lot of her feelings I experienced as well. And I wish that all exceptional children, and just children who are misunderstood or have something complicated in their life, had a Miss Honey. And so this was great. This was a great idea to read this. So now I'm going to move on probably to Peter Pan, I'm thinking. Yeah, probably I'm going to start Peter Pan next. I'm going to go for a little walk with Alice, and then I'm going to go see my friend. We're going to do some drawing together and drink some tea, and I'm going to read this on the underground as I get there. Hi. Sorry for almost no light. I have a candle. I'll hold it here. The reason why I have a candle is that there was just a massive airstrike all over Ukraine, in Kiev particularly, and so we have no electricity anywhere in Ukraine. Electricity is off everywhere. I was in the shop and the electricity started blinking out like in a horror film, and then everything turned off for a second and it was back on because I guess the shop has a generator, so I had time to check out with the stuff that I got. And Alice, don't eat the book. And on my way home, my mom called me, and she told me, and she asked me if we heard the explosions, and we did hear the explosions. Before I went to the shop, my boyfriend was like, "Did you hear the explosions?" So, sorry. My city was hit far away from us, but we still heard the explosions. And I don't know if what was hit was a residential building or what is it, and they are hitting electricity and connection. So we have no internet, we have no cellular connection at all. I cannot call anyone, I cannot text anyone, I cannot go online, and nobody can. I'm just saying me because I'm here talking to you. And we don't know when it's going to be back. The heating is off as well, and thankfully the stove and oven in here in this apartment where we live is gas. So we're going to be able to turn it on so long as we have matches to strike it up. So we'll be able to cook or heat ourselves up or make some tea. And the water is kind of trickling out of the faucet. So I don't know if it's going to be off anytime soon, but I hope not. And actually thinking that, I should probably go and draw some water into some jugs and stuff. It's going to be light for a few more hours, but I have a candle because it's dark in the room. And this is like, if I take the candle away, the light you see on my face is just the light from the window. It's going to be light for a few more hours. So if I sit really close to the window, I'll be able to read, which is what I'll do. And I'm starting Peter Pan. Hi, again, sorry for the light. There's no light. This is so much more whimsical than I thought and than I remember. The only thing I remember about it, as I said, is that it made me sad. But I don't know. It's strange. And now I'm hungry and I need to go forage in the kitchen. Hi, it's almost 6. I'm on page 85 of Peter Pan. And I lit 3 candles. I'm reading by the flashlight of my phone. I lit 3 candles so you can at least see my face a little bit in the darkness as I film. There's no water, there's no electricity, there's no connection, there's nothing. And Russia, for some reason, thinks we deserve this. I'm just some guy. I'm just like most of us, just like normal people in their apartments are suffering. Yes, our military suffers as well. The brave people that went to defend us. And at least I'm in my apartment, warm, safe. And the people that went to defend us are in the fucking trenches right now, somewhere in the fields, trying to take down those rockets that are being aimed at our cities, at civilian people. When is the war going to be over? There are a lot of things I want to say about it, but I fear that I will be flagged on YouTube if I do. Pray for us. Cast a spell for us. I don't know. Anything, something, please. Hello, it's 9:15. I took a little nap. Stop it. She wants to go for a walk, but it's pitch black outside. I'm a little scared. But I have my phone with the flashlight on. I should have bought a flashlight when I could, because my phone's at like 20%.
and my power bank is dead already. I charged it a little bit, but there's no more electricity in my power bank. Tomorrow, if the electricity isn't back on, we're going to, I think, go on foot into the city and just try to find like a charging station or somewhere with a generator where they will let us use the outlets. So I'm going to take Alice for a little walk just inside the yard, and thank God for our gas stove. We'll be able to make dinner. I put on dough for pizza, and it rose already, so we can make it whenever. We have candles, we have matches for candles, and it's warm inside, so it's okay. I'm on page 110 of Peter Pan, and I have a lot of thoughts about it, and hopefully I'll be able to film those thoughts with the lights on. Hi, it's almost midnight. I'm on page 131 of Peter Pan, and we've been in total blackout for about 10 hours, or maybe 12. I cannot remember what time the lights went out. I think it was about 2 or 3, because that's when I put the dough on, so it was about 3, and now it's midnight, yeah. There's no water, electricity, or connectivity still, and we're kind of scared that they're going to evacuate the city. I really don't want that to happen, obviously, but, you know, what happens will happen. So I'm just hoping that everything is going to be alright soon. And the annoying thing is that we don't even know what happened. Like, did they hit something? Was there an really big explosion somewhere? Or did they just turn off the nuclear power station because of the overload on the systems? But then why is there no water? Why is there no connection? So, who knows? Be back soon. Hi. I once again apologize for the lighting, but if I open the window, it's just going to blast into the screen, and there's no electricity to turn on, and I'm conserving my candles for nighttime. So this is the light, I'm afraid. This is day 3 with no electricity. Yesterday, they finally gave us water, which is yay. At least we have water. That's huge. And we went to the hospital yesterday to charge our phones. And today on our way to the hospital, we saw this shop that we have nearby. We have this online shop where you can buy everything. And they have these little like offline shops where you can pick up your order. And we have one nearby, and we were going past it, and I saw that there were so many people inside. So we went inside, and there were people charging phones there. So we didn't even have to go too far. So we charged our phones. And I managed to find a shop where you could pay with a card, because most shops are closed. A few shops are open, but they don't have any electricity, so it's cash only, and we are out of cash. And we cannot take out any money out of the ATM machine because there's no electricity, nothing works. But there's one shop with a generator. Everywhere has a generator now, like little coffee shops everywhere. Like you walk around the streets and you can just hear because there are generators everywhere. And that's good. Oh no, were you biting my hand cream, you little silly dog? So I managed to get some groceries, which is good, and we have a gas stove that I'm so thankful for, which means that we can cook. But 3 days with no electricity and no heating is pretty hard. It's really cold out, cold and wet, and gets really cold at night, and I slept most of the day yesterday because I guess my brain just went into hibernation mode because it's dark all the time. And like, I know I keep saying that I hate the light. I hate the sun. I like light, but I like artificial light. I like to be in darkness with artificial light on. That's when I feel cozy and nice. And like, I read a whole book by candlelight, which is I'm going to talk about now. But yesterday I was just asleep. And so I'm really hoping, like, we don't know what's going to happen. We know that in a few districts of the city, there is electricity. My boyfriend just went to see his grandparents, and he called them beforehand, caught some cellular data, and they have electricity. My mom, who lives on the very edge of the city, really far away from us, they got electricity yesterday. So, and a few places I know got electricity for like an hour, and then it was off again. So, I have no idea what's going on. Stop it! So,
we are kind of afraid that this might go on for the whole winter. Because, I mean, Russians just want us dead. They don't care that just civilians are suffering. Like, what is the point of this? Like, do they think that we're going to start hating our own government that is protecting us right now because we don't have electricity? We know what's happening. Like, we can see the rockets flying past our heads when they bomb us. So it's not like we're in confusion about what's going on. So now that I've complained about that, let's talk about the books that I'm reading in this vlog. I finished Peter Pan, and it was such a strange book. Like, why is this a children's classic? It's so weird. Like, I mean, in case you didn't read it, I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm putting a spoiler on the screen. Stop it! On the screen right now, in case you don't want to be spoiled. But, like, did you know that he kills the Lost Boys when they start to get older? Like, it doesn't say the word kills, it says he thins them out. But, like, that's what it's implying. And they like, kill a lot of people in it. They kill a lot of pirates. And, like, Peter Pan talks constantly about the way, like, stop it. How he kills people. And he's just a dick. He's just such a little shit. Like, Wendy's better off. Like, why? Honestly, I don't know what to rate this. This is really strange. Like, I enjoyed parts of it. But, I wouldn't want to read this to my children. Like, I mean, I would acquaint them with it, but I don't think that this is a good fairy tale. So, yeah, that's that. Next one, I'm going to read Heidi by Johanna Spyri, and I'll be back to you when I can update you on that. But I think I'm going to take a little break and read The Lord of the Rings right now, so I'll be back. Maybe when the electricity is going to be back. Hopefully. Pray for us. I'll see you soon.
Silly dog. Why are you eating snow? Come here. Hi, quick insertion. At this point, I forgot to update the vlog, but they gave us our electricity back after 3 days. And ever since then, electricity all over the city has been off every few hours. But we have it back on, so the next part of the vlog is with electrical lighting on. I filmed a TikTok and for Instagram, like, Reels shorts talking about how we have it back, but I forgot to update the vlog. Hi, it's really cold today. I went to pick up my glasses, but they weren't there. Alice played in the snow, and I read 30 pages of Heidi. It's really nice so far. It's got a very fairy tale-y kind of telling style, even though nothing fairy tale-ish is happening. It's about a girl. She's 5 years old. Her parents have died, and she was left with an aunt. And now that aunt is moving to the city. This is like in the mountains of Switzerland, I want to say. Is it Switzerland? Yeah. So the aunt takes the little girl Heidi to their grandfather, who is a recluse, and everybody thinks he's a bad person, and everyone is like, oh, Dita, how could you take the little girl there? But the little girl seems to like it so far, and she just arrived at the grandfather's house, and they're starting their interaction, and I think it's going to be great. Hi, I fell on the ice today, a few hours ago, and hit my head on vibrating phone, on a concrete, like, sidewalk thing behind me, so I'm a little dizzy and nauseous. I don't know if I have a concussion. I don't think I do, but maybe I just need to rest. And so I cannot really, like, concentrate on looking at things right now, so I'm going to try and find the audiobook for Heidi and listen to a little bit before I can go to bed. Air raid alert. Everybody's leaving. Hi, hello. This is the conclusion to this vlog. I finished Heidi today, and now I'm going to talk to you about Heidi and the other 2 books that I've read in this vlog. And I know I said I was going to read 4, but I acquired another children's book, so there's going to be a part 2 to this vlog with 3 more books. So
Uh, to reiterate, I never read the childhood classics that most people read, so I'm reading them in these vlog series. I'm still like mildly concussed, like very little, so I might sound a bit dumb and slow. Don't be like me. If you hit your head, call an ambulance! Go to the doctor! I did not do those things. So I'm just resting. Mostly. Trying to. So, let's talk about Heidi. So Heidi is by Johanna Spyri. My whole life I thought it was Spyri, but in all the audiobooks that I listened to a couple different narrations. They said Spyri, so I'm just gonna assume it's Spyri. Johanna Spyri was born in Switzerland, and when she moved to, I want to say Frankfurt, because I think I read somewhere in a little biography of hers that it was Frankfurt, and it was also the city that Heidi moves to. And Johanna Spyri became very homesick, so she wrote Heidi. She started writing short stories to raise money to help the refugees from the Franco-Prussian War, and Heidi was her first full-length novel, and it's the most popular thing she's ever written, because honestly, frankly, I haven't heard of anything else she's written. By the way, I'm looking at myself, and I feel like I need to say that I put lipstick on to make myself feel a little better about the fact that I hit my head and now I feel like an idiot. So this is the thing that required the least amount of effort. Heidi is a story about a little girl. She's 5 years old when the story begins. Her parents died and she was left with an aunt. And the aunt doesn't really... She takes care of the child, but she thinks of her in terms of these very mercenary conditions. Like, she thinks, what could this child do for me in the future if I find her a good position? So when cousin Dita, she's her cousin, I suppose? No, she's her aunt. I cannot remember why she's called cousin Dita in the book, even if she's her aunt, because I'm dumb, sorry. Dita leaves Heidi with her grandfather, who everybody in Dorfli, in the little village, calls Alm uncle, because he lives at the top of the Alm, and he's like kind of everybody's uncle. But everyone thinks he's a bad person because something in his past made him very coarse. He doesn't really talk to people. He doesn't go to church anymore. He doesn't socialize with anyone. He doesn't live in the village. He lives just at the top there in his own little hut. And so when Dita takes Heidi to grandfather, everybody's like, why would you take the child there? What is wrong with you? But he immediately falls in love with the little girl, takes great care of her, and she loves the mountain, she loves the nature, she loves grandfather, and she has such great fun there. At one point, I don't think this is a spoiler, at one point Dita takes Heidi to Frankfurt to be a companion for a little sick girl of a very wealthy family, and she becomes quite homesick. And this is just this lovely story about family and friendship, and there's this little preachy moment where an older character explains to Heidi what use is praying and why talking to God may help us go through some of our issues, maybe, resolve problems that we cannot tell to anybody else. So, like, if you don't like that in books, you might not like that moment, but in tone and in the preachiness, it kind of reminded me a lot of Little Women. And I know that a lot of people like Little Women and they don't have a problem with that. I, for one, I hated Little Women. It was so boring to me. But this, even though in its tone and sometimes in the style of telling the story, in the writing style, it reminded me of Little Women. I think this is much, much better. So it's just, another one of those lovely childhood stories about a little girl who changes somebody's life and changes the world around her and just brings light to people with her beautiful little heart. And I think that this is a lovely book, and I'm great that this is, I'm grateful, I'm happy that this is a children's classic that I got to read. And this is just a great experience. I really enjoyed it, and if there are little ones in my life, I might, recommend this book to them or read it to them. I think this is a great little story that helps children maybe to learn to appreciate things that they have or learn to see beauty in things where they might not see it at first. Also, this edition is a collector's. I sound weird. Do I sound preachy? I mean, I have feelings about this book. It's just lovely. Also, this is a Macmillan's collector's edition with golden edges, and the cover under the dust jacket is cloth. I don't know. I don't think you can see. There's a floral pattern here, and it's embossed, and it's so beautiful. I love this collection. The font is really small, though, because of the size of the book. So it was a little hard for me to read, so I had to listen to some of it via audiobook, because my eyes won't work well now. So yes, Heidi, 4 stars, excellent read. Now to Peter Pan. I think I already told you my thoughts on Peter Pan, and this is going to be 3 stars for me. I'm glad I read it, but I don't think that I'm going to be recommending it to anybody anytime soon, or especially to any children. Peter is a dick, and he's not the kind of character that I would want as a friend when I was a child. He's kind of a bully and a murderer, and like, you know, it's gonna sound weird, but I can like excuse the murder sometimes, but not the bullying, you know? And it's just, he's just a dick. He's just a dick, and this is not about appreciating the childhood and adulthood. This is just about this little piece of shit. So, even though there were a few beautiful moments in this, I think it's a little bit dated, and just not as beautiful as I was led to believe it is. So, I'm glad that Tinkerbell came out of this, because I like Tinkerbell. She's a little bitch, and I love her. And I'm happy that Wendy got rid of Peter in the end, but he just kind of stayed in her life anyway. So that's just that. It's just weird to me. It's just weird to me. But this book is always kind of gonna stay in my head because it was so strange. And I didn't experience that profound sadness that I experienced when I read it when I was like 14. Because I think, is there another book called Peter Pan in Kensington Park? Because I feel like there is, and I read that one, and it was sad. Okay, so I just looked it up, and yes, there is another book called Peter Pan in Kensington Gardens. It's part of a 4-book series about Peter Pan, and it's the origins of Peter Pan. It's about how he became who he is when he was an infant. And that's the book that I read when I was 14 and the one that made me dreadfully sad. But I don't want to reread it. I don't want to go back to that world, to that series. I just want to forget it exists. Or is that just a weird translation that I read? I need to look into it because I feel like this is not the same book that I read when I was a teenager. So moving on. And Matilda, 5 stars, which is, I completely agree that this is the best children's book ever. Not that I read that many of them, but this was so good. One thing that I wanted to address about this, because I talked about it a lot already, in Matilda there's a character, Miss Trunchbull, who is the headmistress of the school that Matilda goes to. And I'm going to put a spoiler on screen in case you don't want to be spoiled for anything that happens in the book right now. So, Miss Trunchbull is a bully. She terrorizes children. She goes around the rules of, she cannot hit a child, but she will still physically abuse the children without actually, landing a blow. And she verbally abuses children. She breaks their psyches. She acts like a complete asshole. And the thing is that even though all the things that she did were greatly exaggerated if we look at her as a real person that could have existed, I have met people, teachers, educators, who acted exactly like her. When I was in high school, we had this teacher, I'm not going to say any names or anything like that, but she was a teacher who, she knew her subject really well, but when, when she could actually take a break from yelling at us to teach us something, but she would yell at us constantly. She would scream at the top of her lungs, and her room was on the 3rd floor of the school at the end of the hallway, and whenever we had lessons on the 1st floor, at this opposite end of the hallway, we could hear her screaming at the class during the lesson. That's how loud she was with the children. And she wouldn't just like yell at us because we didn't do our lesson or something. She would just find little things to pick on. She kept yelling at us that like we were all born under a number, that like we're nobodies, that we're never gonna amount to anything in life. You know, those kinds of teachers. That she like kept yelling that nothing's good's gonna ever happen to us. She was talking once about how like all women who had children out of wedlock are whores, and the children that are born out of women like that aren't worth anything. And I was like, I was born out of wedlock and there's no dad. And she's like, yeah, but like you had a dad, your mom had a husband at one point. I'm like, mm-mm. And that shut her up. Like, she felt really uncomfortable, but a second later she kept yelling at us. And once this boy, he didn't do his homework, and he like started talking back to her about it. Like, I understand he was out of line talking back when he knew, especially like when he knew what she was gonna do. But she came to his desk, picked up the chair that he was sitting on with him, and brought it to the front of the room where the blackboard is, and put it in front of the blackboard with him still in it, so that he could like tell the class why he didn't do his homework. And those are the kind of things this woman did to us. We were terrified of her. I hated this woman. And it was like, we had teachers like that. So when you read this, if you had an experience like that, it speaks to you and you think, oh my God, these poor fucking children. I'm really sorry for this long story, but it's just, it is accurate of what some children have to go through, especially if this is especially a very smart child or a sensitive child or a child opposite, you know, that is not very bright but is like trying, or even not even trying. Like, your child, you don't have to be bright to be treated with respect. So teachers like this exist, and it just breaks my heart. So I think this is a great book for children to go to when they have trouble at school, something like that as well. And of course, your child is not going to be able to deal with a bully teacher the way Matilda dealt with her, but it still can show children, I think, that there is an inner strength in all of us, and that you should never just let a bully be a bully. Like, when I was bullied in school, my mom would just like just like leave it be, just don't, you know, like, not just my mom, like my adults in my life would just be like, oh, just leave it be, don't, oh God, shouldn't have shaken my head. Don't pay attention to that. I should have paid attention to that. I should have hit them back. So I think this teaches kids good things. So I'm glad I read these children's books. This was a great experience for me. And soon there's going to be a part 2 to this vlog. I think I'm going to take a little break from children's literature right now and read some adult stuff. Please let me know if you read any of these books. You probably have, because everybody has. What you think of them, and if you agree or disagree with any of my opinions. Like, if you disagree with me, let's argue. That's gonna be really fun, because I want to hear everybody's opinion. And please, if you have any children's books that you read when you were a child, and that you would like to see in the next installments of this video series, please let me know what those books are, so I can acquire them and read them, because I missed out on a lot of children's literature. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Slava Ukraini!